Imagine a grand chessboard, where nations are the players, each maneuvering their pieces in a strategic game of power, influence, and survival. This intricate game is known as foreign policy, a complex web of actions, decisions, and goals that each state projects onto the world stage. At the heart of foreign policy lies diplomacy, a delicate dance of negotiation and persuasion aimed at protecting national interests, resolving conflicts, and building relationships. It is the art of saying "nice doggy" until you can find a rock. Diplomacy is the velvet glove that cloaks the iron fist of a nation's power. Foreign policy begins in the neighborhood. A nation's understanding of its interests in the world is shaped by its immediate surroundings. Insightful words from Henry Kissinger underscore the importance of local context and geopolitical position in shaping a nation's foreign policy. This highlights how the crafting of foreign is influenced by a cocktail of external and internal factors. On the global stage, international regimes, organizations, and the presence of dominant powers shape a nation's foreign policy. These systemic factors are that drive the sails of a nation's foreign policy ship. At this point, we cannot ignore the concept of hegemonic stability theory. This theory suggests that a power or a hegemon can provide stability in international, it can maintain order, promote free trade, and deter aggression. This reflects another layer of influence that dominant powers can have on a nation's foreign policy. Moving on, the complex interdependence theory comes into play. It argues states aren't just isolated entities, they are connected through multiple channels, both formal and informal. These connections significantly shape their foreign policies. However, this ship is also steered from within. The economic, technological, and military capabilities of a state are the engine that powers it. The leaders at the helm, with their unique personalities and ideologies, have a significant impact on the direction in which the ship sails. To end, turn to Joseph Nye's poignant reflection. In the age of interdependence, foreign policy must be smart as well as strong. This quote succinctly wraps up the intricate dynamics of foreign policy. It underscores the necessity for a nuanced and intelligent approach, one that navigates the complex channels of global interdependence and steers the nation's foreign policy in a direction that is both smart and powerful in an increasingly interconnected world. National interest is the cornerstone of any foreign policy. It is the guiding star that defines the goals and ambitions of a nation on the global stage. This interest is not monolithic. It is a complex mosaic that includes the pursuit of economic prosperity, maintaining national security, and increasing influence in the global order. The pursuit of national interest often involves a delicate balance of cooperation and competition with other nations. It's like a high-stakes game of chess, where each move is calculated to advance the nation's position on the global board. In the end, all roads in foreign policy lead back to the national interest. Factors influencing foreign policy. The ultimate goal of foreign policy? The pursuit of national interest. It is a nation's compass, guiding its decisions and actions in the international arena. The goal of foreign policy. The significance and influence of foreign policy is paramount. As stated by Professor Joseph Nye, a distinguished political scientist, foreign policy molds the world we inhabit, from the peace treaties that cease wars, to the trade agreements that fuel economies, to the diplomatic negotiations that avert conflict. Indeed, an astutely devised foreign policy can guide a nation towards prosperity and tranquility, while a poorly thought-out one can direct it into discord and seclusion. Over the course of this video, we have explored the various facets of foreign policy. Now let's delve into an often overlooked aspect, the ranges of foreign policy. Foreign policy operates on three main ranges: short, medium, and long-term. Short-term foreign policy often involves immediate responses to international events, such as providing humanitarian aid during a natural disaster or military intervention in a conflict. These policies are typically reactive, implemented to address pressing issues that demand immediate attention. Next, we have medium-term foreign policies. These policies span a few years and often involve negotiating trade agreements, establishing diplomatic relations, or addressing regional issues. They require a balanced approach, combining immediate actions with strategic foresight. Lastly, long-term foreign policy involves strategies that span decades, such as climate change mitigation efforts, peace-building initiatives, or long-term economic plans. These policies require vision and patience, as their impacts may not be immediately visible. These three ranges of foreign policy require different approaches and strategies, but all contribute to the overall goals of a nation. They reflect the multifaceted nature of foreign policy and highlight the importance of strategic planning in international relations. Understanding these ranges and their implications is fundamental to grasping the complexity of foreign policy. In summary, foreign policy is the strategic game nations play on the world stage, influenced by external and internal factors, and driven by the pursuit of national interest. The tool used to play this game is diplomacy, a delicate dance of negotiation and persuasion. The profound significance of foreign policy is undeniable, as it shapes the world we live in, drives economies, ends wars, and prevents conflicts. As we journey through the complex landscape of the 21st century, the understanding of this intricate dance of diplomacy and foreign policy becomes increasingly important. And with that, we conclude the final scene number of our exploration titled, The Importance of Foreign Policy. The dance continues, goes on, and the chessboard of the world stage awaits its next move. Having delved into the essence of foreign policy and its importance, let's now look at the behaviors that govern its execution. Broadly, foreign policy behaviors can be categorized into three types: self-preservation, self-abnegation, and self-extension. Firstly, self-preservation is the most fundamental behavior, aimed at ensuring the survival of the state. For instance, a country may build up its military defenses to deter potential aggressors, or invest heavily in intelligence to anticipate and counteract threats. Secondly, we have self-abnegation. This involves sacrificing national interests for the sake of global peace or humanitarian causes. An example could be a country accepting refugees from a war-torn region, despite economic or security concerns. This behavior, while admirable, is often fraught with internal and external challenges. Lastly, there's self-extension. This is when a country seeks to extend its influence or control over other nations. An example could be a powerful country imposing economic sanctions on another to force a change in policy, or establishing military bases overseas to project power. Understanding these behaviors provides a deeper insight into the strategies and motivations behind a nation's foreign policy. It helps us see beyond the headlines and comprehend the complex dynamics that shape our world. So the next time you read about a country's foreign policy decision, try to identify which behavior is at play. This understanding can enrich our perspective and promote informed discussions on global affairs. Foreign policy is not a one-size-fits-all approach. It varies in dimensions such as alignment, alliance, isolationism, neutrality, and the non-aligned movement. Let's break down these dimensions. Firstly, alignment. This is the tendency of a nation to align its foreign policy with that of another nation or group of nations. It often involves mutual cooperation and shared interests such as trade agreements or joint military exercises. Secondly, alliance. These are formal agreements between nations to cooperate for specific purposes. For example, NATO, or the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, is a political and military alliance of 30 North American and European countries, aimed at mutual defense in response to an attack by an external party. Next, we have isolationism. This is a policy of remaining apart from the affairs or interests of other groups, especially the political affairs of other countries. It's a stance often adopted by nations seeking to avoid entanglement in international disputes. Then there's neutrality. This is the policy of not supporting or helping either side in a conflict, disagreement, etc. Switzerland, for instance, is known for its long-standing policy of neutrality, refusing to engage in armed conflicts unless attacked. Lastly, the non-aligned movement. This is a group of states considering themselves not aligned formally with or against any major power bloc. It emerged during the Cold War as an organization of states wishing to avoid alignment with either the US or the Soviet Union. These dimensions provide a framework for understanding the various approaches nations can take in their foreign policy. Each dimension has its own strengths and weaknesses, and the choice of approach can significantly impact a nation's standing on the global stage. In the next scene, we will discuss how these dimensions play out in real-world situations and their implications for global politics.